Welcome, everybody, back here at Veil of Sound. And I will start similarly to the way that I started an interview a couple of weeks back when I said, like, I'm very happy to talk to somebody whose music I've been following for 30 years, 3 decades, more or less, give or take, maybe 29 years, something like that. And I'm very, very happy to talk to David Sändström. So, David, thanks for joining.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. If you wonder which band I'm talking about, I've not mentioned it in my review of David's new project, which just released something. At the end, you'll know. And if you don't know by now, then you're stupid. David, we always start here with the pluck of the day. And thinking about a band similarly to Backengrillen gave me a hard time because I didn't want to go the obvious doom jazz or free jazz route. I don't know why, but I came up with two bands, The Chariot and Early Opeth.
Oh, right. Interesting.
Yeah. Don't ask me why.
Mm-hmm. I won't.
Your chance to pluck a band or a project that you think deserves more attention.
Just in general, not related to what we do.
No, it doesn't have to be related to Backengrillen. I always try to come up with something similar to my interview partner's music.
Oh, it's a lot of, I'm very much a metal guy. So there's a lot of really great metal out year. Like my year of best of the year list for 25 was like 120 full-length albums, I think. It's insane. So I thought the new Veil Burner was amazing. I thought the new Kostnateni was great. I thought the new Volan was amazing. But the one band that I always talk about that I think is the most interesting band in the world today is Oranssi Pazuzu.
Oh, yeah.
The Finnish band. And I finally got the chance to see them last year. And I have small children. I hadn't been sleeping great, and I hadn't been to a show in a while. But they push all my buttons, and I actually started crying during the third song. And during the fourth song, I felt like I couldn't stay there, so I had to leave. So I love them. They're my favorite band right now. But I could only watch 4 songs, and then I had to leave because it was too intense, too much for me. I think they're remarkable. And they're one of those bands where they just keep making really exciting full-length records one after the other. And I go back, I have all of them. I'm not like a vinyl nerd or a collector, really. Pretty the opposite. I want to have few records, but great records. I always get rid of records. But I have all of their stuff on vinyl, and I go back listening, and every record is fucking great in its own way. And yeah, I think if anyone who hasn't checked them out yet, they are essential, I think, and one of the most exciting metal bands, if not just artists in any genre in the world right now.
Definitely, especially because they created their own niche, and even within that little niche, their sound and their records are never quite the same. There's always a difference in that. And to be able to do that within that little bit of musical niche that they created for themselves, that's an amazing thing, definitely.
Well, that's the thing. It's like when you go deep enough, it feels like they've gone through some portal where it just becomes this universal music that feels connected to everything. You say like a little niche, and I agree, it is a little niche, but it feels huge.
Yeah.
And it's also that thing of like, when bands do something that you would like to call maybe psychedelic, or it feels jammy, it's very rare that you feel that there's an element of control, but they can be expansive and take their time, but they always know where they're going, and they always make it worth your time, and they tie it back together, and things occur, and there's always like a crescendo or something exciting that makes sense to you, even though it can be repetitive. And the thing is too that they groove. It's really like very, very. It draws you in. It's really attractive. It's really mesmerizing, hypnotic. And also alive, I hadn't expected them to go so hard, because they really go hard on stage.
It's interesting that you say they pull you in, because that is something that we could also say for Backengrillen.
Sure.
And that is something that I noticed. I mean, like, we know you come musician wise or musical wise, as a drummer, you come from a hardcore background. Now you're in a band that does more or less the opposite. It's not going as fast or as hard as you can, but being patient, putting as much effort into every single hit on the snare, hit on the toms, hit on anything.
Yeah.
Was that something that you also had to learn for yourself, to be that patient?
Well, I guess, I think I actually, what I've been doing as a drummer, I mean, I've more or less only played in one band. And that band is, it's extremely organized music, and it's restless music. I always say that it was written by one dude with autism and one dude with ADHD. So it's like you don't even get to play 4 bars of something before you have to change it up and stuff. And I've always liked drummers who can use their skill when it's necessary, only when it's needed, and to actually just play the drums, keep it together, keep time, and just do the thing. And then when it's needed, when something really needs to happen, then you have the skills to do that. And I guess it's something that I always wanted to do, to be able to sort of play intuitively. And I think with if there's anything, I'm very much a death metal guy, but if it's kind of my first love as a teenager. But if there's any critique I could have about a lot of death metal, it's that it's overly organized. It's so incredibly organized, and there's a lot of it's strange when the music is so extreme and sort of vulgar and violent, that there shouldn't, it's strange that there isn't more elements of chaos and actual improvisation and stuff. Like, sometimes when I'm listening to Morbid Angel, I can be like, everything about this is so provocative and unexpected, that it would make sense for some of that music sometimes to just break down into some sort of like actual wild improvisation, but it never does. And with this project, we're sort of on the cusp of that, of just like having actual riffs and a rhythm section that can play those riffs, but also having like a lot of stuff that is wild and unclear, and that will surprise even us as players. Yeah. And I love that as a player.
Yeah, I can also agree with what you say about death metal. From a theoretical point of view, that music should be much more chaotic. It should be much more. It should be something like mathcore, like Dillinger Escape Plan. It should break form, but it doesn't. Backengrillen, in a strange way, does. Although it is music that is elongated. There are several tracks that are longer than 10 minutes. But even if we only look at the first 2 minutes of the record, even if we only at the beginning of A Hate Inferior, it starts with those minutely increasing noise in the background. Then we have that singular guitar, and everything seems, as you said,
it's a sample.
Yeah, and it all sounds very intuitively. I mean, like, for musicians who have been at it so long, and rumor is that it was written in one day, played live in the next day, and then recorded on the third day.
Well, yeah, it was basically I have a metal project that I've been working on for a long time, and who knows if it will ever see the light of day. But for that project, I had written some slower stuff, but most of the other stuff for that project is faster. So I had this one riff that I thought of as like a cathedral riff. It's the Hate Inferior riff that I think is kind of like a Gas Jennings type riff. And Mats called me up and asked if we should do a project, because we do different projects together now and then, and we were in one band together, an orchestra, improvisational orchestra called Fire Orchestra, that we just recorded our the second album I've been on, but they've been around for before I joined them. And and he said, because a friend of his is the sort of artistic leader of the jazz festival in our hometown, and he had asked Mats if he wanted to do something. So Mats contacted me and Dennis, and we were like, let's bring in Magnus. And I've always had this dream of doing something wild and improvisational in the sort of death metal space. And so I had that riff, that cathedral type riff. And since we were going to play a show and we knew that it was going to be kind of improvisational, we needed a few riffs and we needed some general idea of where it might go. And then since it was last minute, it was like a month until the show, we just decided as an experiment, let's meet up the night before. And we'd sent all these riffs, so everyone knew the riffs. And then the night before the show, we sort of went through them and made some general idea, like arrangement. And then we were maybe in the rehearsal space 3 hours. And then the night after that, we played a show at the jazz festival. And it was great. It was really great. And then Dennis' kid brother has a studio out in the middle of nowhere in the forest in his house where he lives. So we just went there and recorded it just to have it recorded. And then we thought it turned out great. And so we sent it around. So it was done in 3 days, but some of the material was around longer. But the reason it sounds the way it sounds is because we've only just begun. So there's a lot of stuff we want to try out and do. But it felt like what we could get out, like what we could like harvest from being a completely new band playing the music for the first time, would be the power of the repetition and the primitive, brutal, just like present, just whatever would happen in the moment, that moment. So we really made no clear plans, and maybe when I listened to it, I've only listened to it once since I got the LP, and I thought like, yeah, maybe the song is a bit long, but it's sort of the point of a thing like that is like, why rein it in and make it less extreme? Like, I just remember us being in that room and just feeling great and just playing the same riff over and over and just being very, very just in the zone. So I'm sure that if we make another record and then another record, you will be able to go back to this and it will feel refreshing that it's so primitive and so repetitive and so pure, because the point of a sort of debut is to find like the base, the jumping off point, like the root of where you will start out. So we could have probably made it an easier listen for the audience, but instead we decided to just go as extreme as we could, you know.
You definitely did, in the sense of that whoever listens to the record with any kind of expectations will surely not get what he expects.
No.
Of course, for a second record, that will be something totally different. But with this one, you don't get what you expect, and that's the good point about it. And you've mentioned your love for death metal. Would you agree when I say, like, from this theoretical point of view, this record is more death metal than a lot of the death metal records that came out over the last 30 years? Because of the idea of not conforming to any expectation, to any order?
Well, I don't know, but what the thing is, when I was a kid, I was 14 in 1989, which could be argued was the year when sort of, you know, death metal bands actually started putting out LPs. And before then, there had been demos, and there had been a lot of music. Like, I don't know what you called, like Celtic Frost in 1986 or 87, or what you would have called, Sepultura around Schizophrenia or whatever. Like, there were terms like speed metal and thrash metal and all this other stuff. But when death metal was like sort of came to the surface as a genre, I was right there at the perfect age to receive it. And there was a lot of interesting stuff going on at that time, because Earache was putting out, in those years, 89, 90, 91, they were putting out Carcass, which was very, very different from Morbid Angel.
Yeah.
And they were putting out Entombed, which was different from those two.
Yeah.
And they were also putting out Godflesh, which is part of that world, but incredibly different from those bands too. And parallel to that, a lot of other people were getting very, very interested in this brutal music. So there were people coming from a perspective of, like schooled, trained musicians like John Zorn or maybe Bill Laswell, or all these people were being, interested in these sounds, but they were maybe not as interested in the structure of this music. Because if you look at like Morbid Angel, if you were to make a comparison to any other genre, Morbid Angel sounds like chamber music.
In a way, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like it would be easiest to see that music translated into a sort of small chamber orchestra playing those strange
of all the order
scales. Yeah, I mean, if you listen to Commando, Pete Sandoval playing, like it's so like that 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 that. It's very light. He's playing like an orchestral percussionist inside the music in a sense. But anyway, so certain bands popped up. A band called Painkiller, which was John Zorn and Bill Laswell and some other people. A band called Naked City. And there was two Japanese bands, one called Ruins and one called...
Who are still doing it.
Yes, and a band called Boredoms. And I made the connection by chance. I discovered these bands, and at the same time as I was being obsessed with this new death metal music, I was also being fascinated with the abstraction of this music. It's this grotesque sound environments that are really, really ugly and dark and brutal. And I always felt that those experimental bands went a bit too far in the one direction of being way too free. Yeah. Whereas the death metal bands went way too far and just organized riff after riff in perfect order and all that stuff. Yeah. And what I felt I wanted to try out with Backengrillen was to have it be like, you have a riff and it's a good riff and you have people who can play it, but then you have this element of chaos and this abstraction of noise and stuff and grotesquerie. And I feel we've really just started scratching the surface of what can be done. Because do you know the band Canate?
Canate, yes, of course.
Yeah. They're also very abstract, but I'm very heavy, but
yes, I know what you mean.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm feeling like what we're doing is a bit closer to rock or metal than that, but with elements of that abstraction. Yeah. Yeah. So I think we're feeling that, and I think we will be able to be a band that's really, really exciting live, although being excruciatingly slow. Like I think we'll do stuff that is like slower than like early Cathedral. Like I remember when Ebony Tears came out. I saw it, the Cathedral song. I saw it on Headbangers Ball, and I was just like, because it was so slow and so bleak and dark. And
we will come to one of your live shows in a little bit. And it's interesting that you are dropping so many artists and bands that we've already had here on the show or on our website.
All right.
And it's very cool to hear. And then if one hears the somewhat theoretical background, then some of the sounds on the record make a lot of sense. Because
Yeah.
with Mats Gustafsson, you have somebody who, of course, gives his instruments to the sound, but he then also uses the instrument to create chaos, to create, if I may say so, sometimes even some somewhat disgusting sounds, where one has the element, where one could compare it to Naked Lunch, Naked City, where all of a sudden Patton gives in some of the strangest noises people have ever made by voice, or when Bill Laswell doing some stuff on Painkiller that has never been heard before. Would you say that without Mats, it would have been impossible to create Backengrillen the way it is right now?
Yeah. No, the thing is, and that's the thing I've also wanted to do for a long time. I mean, I'm speaking from my perspective. Dennis has another perspective of what he wants from it, and that's the whole point. And Magnus too. That's the whole point of a band. Like, there can be this like overarching idea of us playing like death doom, but we're never gonna play, any sort of conventional death doom metal that you would recognize. But it will be filled with these personalities and these like choices that will make it something bigger than that. But I'm just speaking of like the basic idea of what we want to explore. And with Mats, he is incredibly rich as a musician, as far as like he has done. I mean, I feel like I've done a lot of different types of music and stuff, but he has done anything almost you could imagine. He has an incredible wide range of experience in music. And what he often does though is that he is the conductor and he is like maybe the leader of a band. And I really wanted to see him in a role where he's totally free. So I work hard with this band, trying to give him just freedom to go and not have any responsibilities, and I just want to hear him play. So there are times on stage where he's playing alone and he's just waiting for me to do like a drum fill to start up again. And I just love listening to him so much that my eyes are closed and I'm just sitting there like this behind the drum set. And then I finally look up and he's been trying to like he's red in the face trying to signal me for minutes to just like start the fucking song. But I'm just enjoying it so much. Just the chaos and intensity of him. And he is, so his role is kind of like in between the madness of Trey, a Sagthot guitar solo, and like a manic like death metal vocalist. He's like just out there doing that grotesque work, whereas me and Magnus are just like being the band and keeping it together,
But I think you would also agree that this version of music that you are doing right now with Backengrillen is only possible because all four people are very, very experienced.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It's the type of thing that.
And at the same time, you let go of all the experience.
Yeah. Well, it pops up when you need it. And there is I mean, me and Magnus having like a rhythm section that's played together since we were in our teens is very luxurious because we can look in each other, just like have this like exchange with our eyes and kind of know what's going to happen or what we're doing. It's very, very easy to work like that. But it's also the type of thing where if you would have tried this out in your late teens or something, it would have been unbearable to listen to for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, it would have probably gone. It would have gone too far in one of the two directions.
Sure.
Something that I like about listening to the record and talking to friends of mine, when a lot of people hear some of the songs, they're like, "Oh, that's just doom jazz," and I say, like, "Wait for the next thing to happen." Again, it's very hard to pinpoint Backengrillen into a genre. And it seems as if you yourself have problems with that. Someone called your own music death rock. Somebody said death jazz. So what is it now? Is it also the sense of making music that is impossible to pinpoint?
Well, I think you always start out from something that is familiar to you.
Okay, of course.
Hey, Gillis. My daughter is there.
Hi!
Oh, yeah,
Daddy's on the TV! You always start from something that you know, of course.
Yeah, that's familiar to you, but then you might combine it with stuff that's... So let's say that one of those riffs for this band would have been just like a theme on the saxophone.
Yes.
It would have been very, very like easy to grasp why you would keep like a very loose grasp on structure and just let it flow, because that's free
and
jazz.
And then call it jazz.
Then it's free. I mean, free jazz,
Yeah.
But because it's a death metal riff or a doom riff, and then you're keeping it like this modal kind of improvisation, because it's not like harmolodics like Ornette Coleman. There's no system. Yeah. It's basically the riff is in D or it's in E or what, it's in B, and then we just stay in
no shape. It's no shape of jazz to come.
No, but what it is basically we start with a riff, and then there's some idea where it will end up, and either we have a more written or less written, but it will end up at some point in some other part that's been agreed upon. But how we get there is unclear. And I guess what we're working on now already is like, there's one song that we're working on that's really slow doom, and it has a lot of repetition, but it also has 3 riffs. So we don't know how long it'll be, but it might be very, very long and very slow and excruciating. But then there's another song that's kind of has like a quality of like a sort of doom riff or death doom riff, that when you play it on the flute, it just sounds like a kind of nice melody. But when you play it on a distorted bass, it sounds like a doom riff. And that song might be pretty short actually. Jag måste prata, så du kan inte avbryta mig. Jag har en intervju.
Yeah, that's life.
No, so we're trying out. I think maybe this record that we made now will probably be the most, the record that is the most consistent as far as
like most of the songs. If this is the record that is most consistent, then I'm really interested in what the next one will be like.
Oh, it will be very, very interesting, I think.
The way you describe it, it will be. Something that I think might not be recognized by everybody is that there is also a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor on the record.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I hope that everybody out there gets the reference to John Coltrane, because I mean, like, a hate inferior.
Yeah.
That is not an incidental name.
No.
Repeater 2. Also not an incident.
No.
Is that also something that was important? I'm very sure it was important for you as a band to not just make music you like, but also have fun while doing it, right?
Sure. And it's also having been in this these subcultures and being in underground music for so long, there are these kind of like dog whistle things where you just like, it occurs to you that this is fun or funny, and it's just we're doing jazz and we're doing some sort of death jazz, and it just occurs to you that a very, very classic, typical, like first jazz record to get into is A Love Supreme, and then you're like, what would be the antithesis or the exact opposite? And then it's A Hate Inferior.
Yeah.
And it's just an obvious. It just seemed like that would be a great first song for us to release. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
And
the
I
same
think
with
then,
hardcore. One of the
yeah,
first bands you get into is Fugazi, and then it's
yeah,
Repeater. Yeah, of
yeah.
course. Um,
And I think, but with that, it's just started singing that phrase, repeat it again. And then he was like, oh, I could just call it Repeater, like the Fugazi
yeah,
song, but have it be like
yeah,
number two. Yeah. It's
yeah,
not, you don't put a lot of thought into that stuff. It's just kind of funny. Hey,
yeah.
Doggerly. Bye
And
bye.
and I think that's also the thing, right? As
Yeah.
serious as one should take his music or one's
Yeah.
music, it must still be fun. And that is something that is
Yeah.
oozing from every tone on the
Yeah.
record.
But there's also one of the lyrics, the dör för långsamt, dying too slowly. That's the lyrics for that is written by like one of our great Swedish poets that Mats knows and plays with a lot.
I'm sorry, my Swedish is a little rusty, so I didn't.
No. But it's one of those things where
Yeah,
certain people who are into that type of thing thinks that in
yeah,
Sweden, of course. I don't know to
yeah.
which degree he's translated, but he's a great poet, and we're really happy that he let us have this poem to use for our record. But of course, it's lost upon everybody else. But yeah.
Well, but then again, like then we're again at the point like, do we have to please somebody or do we do it for ourselves? No, we should do it for ourselves, right?
Well, yeah. There's definitely. I think maybe this is the record. It might end up being the record of my life where I thought the least about an audience.
But isn't that a cool thing?
Well, sometimes you need just if it leads to something that gives people a lot, which I think it will do, then it's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and it gives people a lot. And again, I think important is that it gives the people involved a lot. And that is
Yeah.
something that I definitely see. I just have a few more questions before you then should go and take care and play with your daughter. You are not on Spotify. That is a conscious decision, right?
Yeah, I remember being very against us being on streaming at all, but then I actually I very often miss the meetings. It's actually my wife told me about this like literally 20 minutes ago, or 20 minutes before it was supposed to start because I totally forgotten. So I remember saying that for a band like us and making a record in such an obscure genre, why would you put it on any streaming? Let's just make the LP, and the few people, the 3 people in every big city in Europe who like this stuff, they can order it and have it, and no one else needs to hear it. That's how I feel. And then
it's interesting that you undersell yourself that much.
No, but it's a very specific thing, and it's the type of thing like I have a lot of bands like that I follow that maybe print 500 or 1,000 or whatever, and I buy it and I love it, and I felt like if we're starting this thing up, let's have the people who are really fascinated by this type of stuff find it first and get to have it, and then if it develops into something more powerful, something that like Oranssi Pazuzu is also something pretty obscure at some point,
but they are selling good.
Yeah, absolutely. And who knows, we might get to a point like that after a couple of records, but I'm just thinking like, let's just do this for the type of people who would really like it. And that's also why we would say no to a feature in The Guardian and stuff like that. Like, I want it to be like an organic. It shouldn't just because we've been in a famous band or whatever. We shouldn't just show up out of the blue in some big publication. I wanted to have an organic rise and that people would read about it in metal blogs or see us live and hear other people say that they saw us, and to have a reputation.
So then Bandcamp is like the compromise, right? So
sure.
Yeah. You've spoken about live, and we have to say that. I still remember it was, I think, in November or December when Roadburn all of a sudden said, we're going to add those 10 bands or something. And one of the names was Backengrillen.
Yeah.
Fortunate for me, I already knew who it was from the other interview some weeks ago.
Yeah.
But all my friends were like, who the fuck is Backengrillen? And I was like, wait. Then January comes and more news about who's in the band is coming out. And they're like, oh, yeah, cool. And I was like, wait. And then the record came out. And I think that for the Roadburn route, it will have had the total opposite. I think now with this record, more people will be excited about Backengrillen than it would have been with your former band. This is, if I remember correctly, Roadburn is not the first. I mean, like we've already mentioned that you played at that festival, but it's not your first performance after the release of a record, right? It's number 2 or 3, right?
Oh yeah, we're gonna play at the literature festival in our hometown in March.
In Umeå.
Yeah.
And so then Roadburn is the first time that you will perform outside of Sweden, right?
Yes. And it will be, I mean, we haven't done a show in 2 years.
So how excited are you about it?
I would say we've done 6 shows in total.
Okay, so then it will be
Roadburn will be number 8.
How excited are you?
Very, very. I've been planning that the Roadburn show for a while. Yeah.
And
we're going to play a lot of new stuff.
You already answered my question. My next question, I would have asked, like, are you going to play the record from front to beginning? Wow, cool. So then everybody who's at Roadburn will know where Backengrillen is going next.
Yes.
Interesting. So again, you are basically breaking the cycle.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's very, very cool. Last thing before we come to the quickfire round at the end. You or one of you has said, let me have a look at it. I think it's even yourself who said it. We really hope this slap of stupid, violent death rock will ruin someone's day. And somewhere else it says anti-fascist, anti-racist. Would you say that music like this, which is intuitive, but also has a little bit of a chaos of intuition, is something that reflects our day and age?
I get, yeah. I mean, I read.
You get the music that the time deserves?
Yeah, definitely. I have a friend who's in the music business, like an A&R at big labels and stuff, and he mentioned that there's somewhere between 7,000 and 9,000 releases in the metal genre per year.
Yeah, definitely.
And he said that like maybe hip hop is the biggest genre in the world because it is everywhere. I mean, every country on earth has its own hip hop, I suppose, but it also sells a lot and it's huge. But he said that if you count festival goers as well as physical sales and all of that, metal is like one of like top 3 genres of music in the world. And I think that has very much to do with the world we're living in.
A little bit of escapism, right?
Well, I think
escapism and reflection at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, mainstream pop music is way more escapist.
That's true.
There's something about metal that has always sort of unmasked polite society and pushed your face into the grotesque and the absurd and the evil and the nastiness. So if you were to look for a soundtrack for, let's just say, like what's going on in the US today with all of these very, very powerful people being exposed as part of this like disgusting pedophile. I mean, could you imagine something more fitting than like, you know, like some torture grind?
Go on.
Something happened. Yeah. No, but I mean, autopsy or some, I mean, you know what I mean? Like you could definitely imagine some sub genre within extreme metal to be the soundtrack for this.
Definitely.
This disgusting shit that's going on.
Yeah. let's not end this interview on such a pessimist thing. I have a last question before before the quickfire round. Do you know what Backengrillen has in common with living in a box and talk?
Vad sa du? Mörkgrön. My daughter just asked me what my favorite color is. Talk. That's the what's his name?
Spirit of Eden.
I bought his. Never mind.
So what has Backengrillen in common with living in a box and talk? You have a song called Backengrillen by a band called Backengrillen on a record called Backengrillen.
Yes.
And I use that in order to open the quickfire round because there are a lot of bands who did that. So I'll give you a question. Which song would you rather listen to? Iron Maiden by Iron Maiden of Iron Maiden, or Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath on Black Sabbath?
Black Sabbath, yeah.
Would that also in generally be your choice when comparing Maiden and Sabbath?
Mm-hmm.
And we spoke about, Repeater. So I'll give you two of the pre-Fugazi bands. Rites of Spring versus Embrace.
Rites of Spring. But I love Embrace. Incredibly important bands for me.
Would you say that there is any Ian MacKaye band that is not important to you?
No, but I will tell you this: I met Brendan Canty, the drummer for Fugazi and Rise of Spring and stuff, and him and Guy had bands before Rise of Spring, and I asked him about some of those early bands, and I asked are there more recordings of any of that stuff? And he said, just listen to Discharge instead, because that's all we were trying to do.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people forget. That's true. I'll give you two very, very different things. Soul Glow versus Soul Train.
Soul Train.
Okay.
Yes.
Two songs by the same band. And I don't know, but there is something in the way of the vocals in both songs that I think compares very well to Dennis's sound. The band is Cool and the Gang, and the songs are Jungle Boogie versus Jungle Jazz.
And I pick my favorite.
Yeah, which one you would rather listen to?
Jungle Boogie. I love that song.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Which Tarantino movie is it in? It's Pulp Fiction, isn't it?
Jungle Boogie. Jungle Boogie.
I think that's on Pulp Fiction.
I think so.
And the last one, we've talked about, the Shape of Jazz to Come record, and we've spoken about A Love Supreme. So, which artist do you like more, John Coltrane or Ornette Coleman?
It's Ornette for me. Yeah, okay. I know it's weird. I have friends who would just lose their mind. But he has. I am a guy who likes the chaotic, the violent. I prefer it over beauty, although I love beauty in music and in art and everything. But I am the kind of guy who likes, one of my favorite hardcore bands, or one of my top 3 is Butthole Surfers. I really love the unexpected and the grotesque and the chaotic and anything that exposes the nerve. And Ornette has an element of surprise to everything that he does. He's so idiosyncratic and iconoclastic. I just love him. Yeah.
I just wrote down 2 more. When we talk about a death metal influenced band, you have to choose between Death and Morbid Angel.
Morbid Angel.
And
although I have Chuck right here. But yeah, Morbid Angel.
And you've spoken about Mats being somewhat of a conductor and somewhat of, a straight up musician in the band. So I thought of a conductor who is not very often seen as a conductor. Frank Zappa.
All right.
Hot Rats versus Shake Your Booty.
Hot Rats.
Okay. Good.
And I was always more of a Beefheart guy.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that. Makes sense when listening to Backengrillen. David, thanks for your time. I know there is somebody waiting for some daddy time, so I don't want to keep you too long. For everybody out there, Backengrillen by Backengrillen out since January 23rd on Svart Records. I want to end this with finally saying it. If anybody still hasn't got it, we were always talking about Refused. But Refused are fucking dead.
Yes.
Backengrillen are effing alive. So, David, hope to see you in Tilburg in a few weeks, and enjoy the evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thanks for talking.
Bye.